$28 billion in revenue last quarter, and almost every headline still only talked about how many cars got delivered. Buried underneath that number was $3 billion from batteries, $65 million a month from software subscriptions, and close to $6 billion being spent on artificial intelligence that will not generate a single dollar back for years. Elon Musk is not building a car company anymore. He is building 6 different companies inside one stock ticker, and most investors have not caught on yet. 6 bets, ranked by how real they already are, how big they could become, and how badly the market is underpricing them. From the longest shot to the one that could eventually dwarf the car business entirely. Drop the one you think is the biggest sleeper in the comments. Then let us get into it. Number 6 on our list is Tesla Semi and autonomous trucking. This is the riskiest bet on the entire list, and it deserves to be ranked honestly. Tesla is chasing a piece of the freight trucking industry in America, a market worth more than $800 billion a year, with an electric semi-truck designed to eventually drive itself on long highway routes without a human behind the wheel. That is the pitch. Here is the problem. The fully autonomous version of the Semi has already slipped more than 6 months behind its original target, and a competitor called Aurora is already running more than 250,000 driverless miles on real American highways with commercial freight partners, while Tesla's Semi program is still mostly about limited production trucks with a human driver still required. The mechanical reality is that the underlying hardware is genuinely impressive. The battery and drivetrain borrow directly from Tesla's years of experience building efficient electric powertrains, and the freight industry itself is desperate for anything that cuts fuel and labor costs at this kind of scale. But hardware is not the hard part here. Software is. And full autonomy for an 80,000-pound truck on a crowded interstate is a much harder problem than autonomy for a passenger car. Here is the alert for this one. Watch the autonomy timeline closely, because it has already slipped once, and any additional delay is a signal that Tesla is behind, not ahead, in this specific race. Aurora already has a real fleet running today. Tesla's freight revenue is currently so small it gets folded into a miscellaneous vehicle category alongside the Cybertruck, meaning there is barely a visible revenue line to point to yet. The verdict on Semi is that this bet only becomes huge if Tesla either catches up to Aurora on autonomous miles or wins on cost and manufacturing scale instead. Freight companies care about one thing above all else: cost per mile. And Tesla's advantage in battery manufacturing and vertical integration could still matter even if the fully driverless version takes years longer than promised. Until then, this is the longest shot on the list, a real business with a real market sitting behind a real competitor. Number 5 is charging infrastructure and services. This one has quietly turned into a cash machine while almost nobody was watching, because everybody assumed the Supercharger network existed purely to help Tesla sell more cars, not to make money on its own. That assumption is now outdated. Tesla operates more than 82,000 charging connectors across more than 8,000 stations in the United States, and the company has been opening that network up to non-Tesla vehicles, turning what used to be a cost center into a genuine services business generating more than $10 billion a year. The mechanical reality here is pure scale and reliability. The network moved 2 terawatt-hours of electricity through Tesla chargers in a single recent quarter, up 30% from the year before, with more than 60 million total charging sessions completed over the life of the network, and an uptime reliability rating above 99%. For comparison, competing charging networks like EVgo are growing fast too, but from a much smaller base, with quarterly charging revenue still measured in the tens of millions rather than billions. The hidden risk here is margin pressure and competition. As more automakers adopt Tesla's charging connector standard, more electric vehicles are showing up at Tesla stations, which is good for volume, but puts real pressure on wait times and infrastructure costs. And rivals like EVgo and Electrify America are expanding aggressively to grab a piece of the same growth. The verdict on charging is that this is one of the safer, more boring bets on the list. And boring is exactly why it is underappreciated. It behaves like a utility with a recurring revenue stream. It is already profitable at scale, and it barely gets mentioned next to flashier stories about robots and self-driving software, even though the growth rate here is outpacing the growth rate of Tesla's own car business. Number 4 is artificial intelligence compute infrastructure, often referred to internally as Cortex and Dojo. This is the bet that quietly funds every other bet on this list, and it is also the hardest one for outside investors to picture, because it does not look like a product you can touch. Tesla has built massive clusters of computing power in Texas specifically to train the artificial intelligence models behind self-driving software, robotaxis, and the Optimus robot. That compute capacity doubled in the first half of 2026 alone, climbing to 260 megawatts, with a target of reaching 400 megawatts by the end of the year. The mechanical reality is that none of this generates direct revenue today. Zero. It is pure infrastructure spending, part of a capital expenditure budget that has ballooned past $25 billion for the year, nearly triple what Tesla historically spent in a single year. That is a staggering number for a company that outsiders still mostly think of as an automaker. The hidden risk here is obvious once you say it out loud. Tesla is competing for computing dominance against companies that are collectively spending over $700 billion a year on artificial intelligence infrastructure, including the biggest technology companies on the planet, and against chipmaker NVIDIA, which currently leads the entire industry on raw processing hardware. Spending billions with no near-term return only makes sense if the payoff on the other end, self-driving cars and working robots, actually arrives on schedule. The verdict on AI compute is that this is the foundation underneath everything else Tesla is betting on. If the self-driving software and the robots eventually work, this spending looks like genius, the kind of infrastructure bet that early cloud computing investments once looked like before anyone understood their value. If they do not, this becomes the single biggest drag on the entire company's cash position. Number 3 is full self-driving software. Here is a number that should stop you in your tracks. 1.48 million people are currently paying Tesla $99 a month for self-driving software, and that subscriber count grew 56% in a single year. In North America, more than half of all new Tesla buyers are now choosing to attach this subscription, which means Tesla has quietly built a recurring software revenue stream worth somewhere between roughly $775 million and $1,760 million a year, depending on exactly how the subscriber mix breaks down. The mechanical reality is that this software still requires a human driver paying attention behind the wheel in almost every situation today. The next version, described internally as a genuine step change, is aiming to unlock truly unsupervised driving, meaning no human intervention required at all. That is the line between a helpful driver assistance feature and a business that could eventually power an entire robotaxi fleet. The hidden risk here is that Tesla is not close to alone in this race, and it is not currently winning it. Waymo, owned by Google's parent company, has already logged more than 220 million fully autonomous miles with no driver at all, operating in more than 10 major American cities with hundreds of thousands of paid trips every single week. Tesla's own unsupervised mileage sits closer to 380,000 miles, a gap that is genuinely enormous. The verdict on full self-driving is that the subscription business is already real and already growing fast, which most investors still treat as a footnote rather than a business line worth its own valuation. But the bigger prize, true unsupervised autonomy at scale, is still unproven, and the company chasing that same prize hardest, Waymo, currently has a massive head start that will take years of flawless execution to close. Number 2 is Tesla Energy, built around the Megapack battery system. This is the bet with the strongest case for being flat out underpriced by the market today. Because unlike almost everything else on this list, it is not a future promise. It is already a real, profitable, rapidly growing business. Tesla deployed 13.5 gigawatt-hours of battery storage in a single recent quarter, up 41% from the year before, generating more than $3 billion in quarterly revenue and nearly $13 billion over the full previous year, growth of roughly 27%. The mechanical reality is that Tesla is currently the #1 deployer of grid-scale batteries in the world by sheer volume, capturing around 15% of the entire global market, running 4 dedicated battery factories, including a new solar and storage facility in Texas that cost more than $10 billion to build. Demand for this kind of grid storage is only accelerating as more renewable energy comes online and as artificial intelligence data centers demand enormous, stable amounts of electricity around the clock. Musk's other company, the artificial intelligence venture known as xAI, has already paid Tesla more than $430 million for Megapack batteries to power its own data centers, which tells you something about how seriously these systems are being taken by the companies building the future of computing. The hidden risk here is margins, not demand. Gross margin on the energy business actually declined by roughly 19% in a recent quarter, showing that scale alone does not guarantee profitability, especially with battery cell competitors like CATL and BYD in China pushing costs down aggressively. The verdict on Tesla Energy is simple. This business alone generates more annual revenue than most entire energy companies. It is growing faster than Tesla's own car business, and it still represents only around 11% of Tesla's total quarterly revenue in the public conversation. That mismatch between how big this business already is and how little anyone talks about it is exactly what undervalued is supposed to mean, and it is the single strongest case on this entire list. And now, number 1, the biggest and riskiest bet of them all, robotaxis built around the purpose-built Cybercab alongside the Optimus humanoid robot. If you want the single most extreme bet in corporate America right now, this is it. Tesla is building a dedicated robotaxi vehicle called the Cybercab at a factory in Texas with capacity to build more than 125,000 of them a year. And at the same time, it is installing production lines for a humanoid robot named Optimus at facilities in both California and Texas, with Musk publicly targeting eventually building millions of these robots. The mechanical reality today is genuinely small compared to the ambition. Tesla's robotaxi service has logged roughly 2.4 million cumulative paid miles, but only around 380,000 of those miles were driven with no human safety monitor at all. Optimus, meanwhile, currently exists only inside Tesla's own factories, helping with internal tasks, with 0 robots sold to any outside customer yet, even as the production lines meant to eventually build them at real volume are already being installed. Here is your buyer alert, and it is a big one. Waymo has already driven 220 million fully autonomous miles, more than 500 times what Tesla has logged unsupervised, and operates paid robotaxi service across more than 10 American cities today. On the robot side, a competitor called Figure AI has already built its 1,000th humanoid robot, manufacturing them at a rate of roughly 1 per hour, while Boston Dynamics is already shipping its Atlas humanoid to real customers. Tesla is behind on both fronts of this bet, not ahead. And yet, here is why this ranks number 1 anyway. The potential size of this bet dwarfs everything else on the list combined. American ride-hailing alone is worth more than $100 billion a year, and roughly 93% of jobs in the United States could theoretically be partially performed by artificial intelligence paired with a capable robot body. If Tesla ever gets even a meaningful slice of either the robotaxi market or the humanoid labor market, the scale of that outcome is not measured against car sales anymore. It is measured against the entire American labor economy. The verdict on robotaxis and Optimus is that this is pure optionality. It could amount to very little if autonomy and robotics prove harder to solve than expected, exactly the way full autonomy has proven harder than almost every automaker originally promised. Or it could become larger than every other Tesla business combined if Musk is right. Either way, it is the single highest variance bet Tesla is currently making with real money, and that variance is precisely why it sits at the top of this countdown. So let us bring it all together. Here is the pattern running underneath every single one of these 6 bets. Tesla spent close to $6 billion in a single quarter and more than $25 billion for the full year, deliberately choosing artificial intelligence, robotics, and energy infrastructure over simply maximizing car profits in the short term. 3 of these 6 bets are already real growing businesses today: charging infrastructure, full self-driving subscriptions, and Tesla Energy. The other 3, autonomous trucking, robotaxis, and Optimus, are genuine moonshots where Tesla is currently behind established competitors and needs real technical breakthroughs to catch up. None of this is a guarantee, and nobody should treat a documentary breakdown like this as a signal to bet the mortgage on anything. This is not financial advice. It is a map of where the money and the effort are actually flowing inside one of the most closely watched companies on Earth. What the numbers do show is a gap between how the market talks about Tesla, almost entirely centered on quarterly car delivery counts, and where the actual money and effort inside the company is currently flowing. So here is our final question for you. Out of these 6 bets, which one do you think actually pays off first? The safe and boring energy business already printing billions? Or the extreme long shot chasing robots and driverless taxis? Drop your pick in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you want to catch the next hidden shift in how Tesla, or any major company, is really spending its money before the headlines catch up, make sure you are subscribed, because these gaps between perception and reality never stay hidden for long.